Park Tae-ho stood outside his small cabin, drinking cold coffee and watching the stars. He had been stationed at this remote monitoring outpost for 3 months now. It was boring work. He checked weather sensors, recorded wildlife activity, and sent reports that nobody read. The nearest town was 20 kilometers away. The nearest person was even farther. Tae-ho liked the silence. After 8 years as a military field medic, he had seen enough blood and heard enough screaming to last forever. This quiet posting was supposed to help him rest. His commanding officer, Captain Yoon Jae-soo, had insisted on it. "You need time away from death," she had told him. "Go watch trees grow." So here he was, watching trees grow. Then the light appeared. It started as a bright point high above, like a star falling from its place. But it grew larger and brighter, leaving a trail of fire across the black sky. Tae-ho lowered his coffee cup and watched. He had seen meteor showers before. This was different. This light moved with purpose. It curved slightly as if trying to control its fall. Then it dropped behind the mountain ridge 3 kilometers north, and the ground shook. Tae-ho stood very still. The explosion had been loud but short. No secondary blast followed. Whatever had crashed was not a plane full of fuel. He should report it. He should call the base and let them send a proper team. Instead, he went inside, grabbed his medical bag and a flashlight, and started walking north. The forest was dark and thick with old pine trees. Tae-ho moved quickly but carefully, following the direction of the crash. The air began to smell strange, like burned metal mixed with something sweet he could not name. After an hour of hiking uphill, he found it. The ship had torn a long wound through the forest. Trees lay broken and burning on both sides of a deep trench. At the end of the trench sat the wreckage. Tae-ho stopped breathing for a moment. It was not human. He knew this immediately. The craft was smooth and curved, shaped almost like a seed pod. Its surface looked like it had once been silver, but now it was blackened and torn open. Strange symbols marked its sides, glowing faintly with dying blue light. Tae-ho approached slowly. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. He had trained for many emergencies, but not for this. Nobody trained for this. The ship's interior was exposed where the hull had split. He shined his flashlight inside and saw 2 figures. The first was an adult female. At least Tae-ho thought she was female. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin was pale silver gray, and her limbs were longer and thinner than any person's. Her face had 2 large eyes, now half closed, and small features that might have been beautiful in an alien way. She wore something like a uniform, dark and fitted. She was dying. Silver blood pooled beneath her body. A piece of metal from the ship had pierced her chest. Her breathing was shallow and wet. Tae-ho knelt beside her, his medical training taking over, even though he knew his human medicines would be useless. Her eyes opened. They were large and dark, with no white part, just deep pools that reflected his flashlight. In those eyes, Tae-ho saw fear, pain, and something else. Desperation. She tried to speak. The sounds were not words he could understand, but her meaning was clear. She was pointing, her thin hand trembling with effort, pointed toward the back of the ruined ship. Tae-ho followed her gesture. There, secured in a small alcove, was a pod. It was intact, protected by some kind of cushioning material. Inside the pod was something small and moving. A baby. Tae-ho looked back at the dying alien. Her eyes were locked on him. She made another sound, softer now, and pushed weakly toward the pod. Every movement cost her tremendous pain, but she kept pushing, kept pointing. She wanted him to take the child. Tae-ho moved to the pod and carefully lifted it. The baby inside was small, maybe the size of a human newborn, wrapped in soft silver cloth. Its skin was pale lavender, and when it opened its eyes, they were the same deep dark as its mother's. It did not cry. Instead, it made a low humming sound, almost musical. He brought the pod back to the mother. She looked at her child one last time, and something like peace crossed her alien features. Then she looked at Tae-ho. She reached out with her bloody hand and touched his chest, right over his heart. She spoke one more time, a single phrase repeated twice, her voice barely a whisper. He did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. He had seen enough dying parents in war zones to recognize a final plea. "Take care of my child." Her hand fell. Her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. Tai-Ho knelt in the wreckage for a long time, holding the pod with the alien baby inside. The child had stopped humming and was now looking at him with curious, trusting eyes. It did not know its mother was dead. It did not know it was alone on a strange world. It only knew that someone was holding it. Tai-Ho knew he should report this. He knew the protocols. An alien crash would bring scientists, military, government officials. The child would be taken for study. The mother's body would be examined. Everything would be documented and classified and locked away. He looked at the baby again. It reached toward his face with tiny fingers. Tai-Ho made a decision that would change everything. He did not report the crash. Instead, he buried the mother. He dug a grave in the soft earth beyond the wreckage, working through the night until his hands bled. He did not know alien funeral customs, so he used human ones. He spoke quiet words over her grave and marked it with a stone. Then he took the child and walked back to his cabin. The walk was long, and the baby grew restless. Tai-Ho held the pod close to his chest, trying to share his warmth. The humming started again, a low tone that vibrated against his ribs. He hummed back without thinking, matching the pitch as best he could. The baby seemed to calm. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was rising. Tai-Ho was exhausted, covered in dirt and alien blood, carrying a child from another world. He had no idea what he was doing, but when he looked down at the small creature in his arms, so helpless and alone, he knew he could not have done anything else. The mother had asked him to protect her child. He had made a promise, even without words. Park Tai-Ho was many things: a soldier, a medic, a tired man hiding from his own memories. Now he was something new. He was a father. Tai-Ho quickly learned that alien babies were very different from human babies. The child would not drink milk. She would not eat any soft food he tried to prepare. She pushed away everything he offered and made low, sad sounds that broke his heart. On the third day, she grew weak. Her lavender skin turned pale gray, and she stopped moving much. Tai-Ho held her and felt terror like he had never known in any war zone. He was a medic. He had saved dozens of lives, but he did not know how to save this one. He stayed awake all night, reading through his medical supplies, thinking desperately. The baby needed nutrients, but not human nutrients. What did her kind eat? He had no way to know. He could not search for information online without raising questions. He could not ask anyone for help. Then he remembered something. When he had found the mother, she had been wearing a small pouch on her belt. He had taken it along with the pod, thinking it might be important. He found the pouch and opened it. Inside were several small containers filled with thick, silver liquid. He opened one and smelled it. It had a faint metallic scent, almost like blood, but sweeter. He touched a drop to his tongue. It tasted like nothing he recognized. He offered some to the baby. She drank it eagerly, making happy sounds for the first time in days. Tai-Ho felt tears of relief run down his face. He had found her food. But there were only 5 containers. They would not last long. Over the following weeks, Tai-Ho worked to create more. He analyzed the silver liquid using his basic medical equipment. It contained proteins, minerals, and compounds he could not fully identify. But some elements were similar to things found on Earth. He experimented carefully, mixing different nutrients together, testing small amounts on himself first to check for obvious poisons. After many failures, he created something the baby would accept. It was not exactly the same as her mother's food, but it kept her healthy. She began to grow stronger. Tai-Ho named her Byul. It meant star in Korean. It seemed fitting for a child who had fallen from the sky. Byul was strange and wonderful. Her skin changed color with her mood. When she was happy, it glowed soft lavender. When she was scared or sad, it turned gray. When she was curious, faint patterns appeared on her cheeks like slowly moving clouds. Her eyes never stopped watching. She observed everything Tai-Ho did with intense attention. When he cooked, she watched. When he read, she watched. When he exercised, she watched and tried to copy his movements with her small limbs. She did not cry like human babies. Instead, she made musical sounds. Low tones meant discomfort. High tones meant happiness. Complex melodies meant she was thinking or dreaming. At night, Tai-Ho would lie awake listening to her sleep songs, beautiful and alien, filling his small cabin with sounds from another world. By the second month, she had grown significantly. She now looked like a human toddler, though Taiho guessed she was developing much faster than any human child would. Her movements became more controlled. She could sit up on her own, then crawl, then walk with unsteady steps. And she began to speak. Her first word was an accident. Taiho had been calling her Biol for weeks, saying it whenever he fed her or picked her up or put her to sleep. One morning she looked at him and said very clearly, Biol. Taiho stared at her. That is your name, he said slowly. You are Biol. She pointed at him. Biol? No, I am Taiho. Taiho. She tried to say it. Tai-o. He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Close enough. After that, words came quickly. She learned food and water and sleep and outside. She learned yes and no and more and please. Her pronunciation was strange, with musical undertones that made every word sound like a song, but Taiho understood her perfectly. She also learned appa. Taiho had not taught her that word. He did not know where she had heard it, perhaps from a radio broadcast or perhaps from his own voice when he talked to himself, missing his own father who had died years ago. But one evening, when he came home from checking his monitoring equipment, she ran to him on wobbly legs and said, Appa home? He picked her up and held her tight, and he did not correct her. By the third month, Captain Yoon Jisu came to visit. Taiho had been expecting this. He had extended his leave twice already, giving vague reasons about needing more rest. Jisu was not fooled. She knew him too well. They had served together for 6 years. She had seen him work through injuries that would stop other men. The idea that he needed extended rest did not match the Taiho she knew. She arrived without warning, driving up to his cabin in a military vehicle. Taiho saw her coming from the window and felt panic rise in his chest. By all, he said quickly, we are going to play a game. You need to hide in the special place and be very, very quiet. Can you do that? Biol's skin turned slightly gray with worry, but she nodded. She had learned that sometimes being quiet was important. Taiho had practiced this with her, hiding her in a small space behind his bookshelf whenever he heard unexpected sounds outside. She went into her hiding spot. Taiho covered the entrance with a blanket and went to meet Jisu. Captain, he said, opening the door before she could knock. This is unexpected. Jisu studied his face. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. Nothing escaped her attention. You look tired, she said, and thin. What are you doing out here, Taiho? Resting, like you ordered. I ordered rest, not isolation. You have not responded to messages in 2 weeks. The signal is bad here. Jisu did not believe him. He could see it in her eyes. She looked past him into the cabin, scanning the small space with professional efficiency. Taiho felt sweat form on his back. Can I come in? She asked. He could not say no without making her more suspicious. Of course. She walked through the cabin slowly. She looked at his medical supplies spread out on the table in unusual arrangements. She looked at the extra blankets, the small clothes he had sewn by hand, the containers of silver-tinged nutrient mixture. You have a child here, she said. It was not a question. Taiho's heart stopped. What? Jisu pointed at the small clothes. Those are not your size, and you have been making baby food. She turned to face him. Whose child is it? Did something happen that you cannot report? Taiho could not speak. His mind raced for explanations, excuses, anything. But before he could respond, a small sound came from behind the bookshelf. A sneeze, followed by a quiet musical giggle. Jisu's eyes widened. She moved toward the bookshelf, but Taiho stepped in her path. Please, he said, I can explain, but you have to promise me something first. Promise what? Promise you will listen to the whole story before you do anything. Jisu looked at him for a long moment. They had been through battles together. They had saved each other's lives. Trust between them ran deep, even when understanding did not. I promise, she said. Taiho took a deep breath and moved the blanket aside. Biol looked up at them both with her large dark eyes. Her skin shifted nervously between lavender and gray. She looked at Jisu, then at Taiho, then back at Jisu. Then she smiled and said, Hello, I am Biol. Jisu stared. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, closed it, and opened it again. Tai-ho, she whispered. What have you done? He told her about the crash, the dying mother, the silent promise he had made. He told her about the desperate first weeks, the experiments with food, the sleepless nights wondering if he was doing the right thing. He told her about Biol's first words, her first steps, the way she called him Appa. Jisoo listened without interrupting. Her face remained still, but her eyes moved between Tai-ho and the alien child sitting on the floor, playing with a wooden spoon. When he finished, silence filled the cabin. You should have reported it, Jisoo finally said. I know. This is first contact, the most important event in human history, and you buried it in the woods. I buried her mother. I protected her child. Jisoo looked at Biol. The little girl was watching them both with curious eyes, her skin now calm lavender. She did not understand the tension in the room, but she understood that these two people were having an important conversation. She is beautiful, Jisoo admitted quietly, in a strange way. She is just a child. Whatever world she comes from, whatever her people are like, she is just a child who lost her mother. Jisoo sighed. I should report this immediately, you know that. Yes, they will take her. Scientists, government people, military. She will become a subject of study. Tai-ho said nothing. His jaw was tight. Jisoo rubbed her eyes. I did not see anything today. I came to check on you, found you healthy, and left. Do you understand? Relief flooded through Tai-ho. Thank you. Do not thank me. I am not doing this for you. She looked at Biol again. I am doing it for her. Whatever happens next, she deserves time to grow, not time in a laboratory. Jisoo left that afternoon. Tai-ho watched her drive away and felt both grateful and worried. He trusted Jisoo, but secrets had a way of escaping. He needed to be more careful. 2 weeks later, the world changed. It started with reports on the radio. Strange signals detected in deep space. Objects approaching the solar system at impossible speeds. Governments releasing confused statements. Scientists expressing excitement and fear in equal measure. Then the ship arrived. It was massive. The news showed images captured by satellites. A vessel the size of a small city, elegant and curved, moving into orbit around Earth. It did not attack. It did not threaten. It simply arrived and began broadcasting. The broadcasts were in an unknown language, but mathematicians and linguists worked frantically to decode them. Within days, basic translation was possible. The messages were simple, repeated in many forms. They were searching for something. Tai-ho sat in his cabin, holding Biol on his lap, listening to the radio reports. His hands trembled as the translator's voice read the alien message. We seek the child of our people. A scout vessel was lost near your world. We come in peace to recover what was lost. Please help us find the child of Valari. Biol looked up at him. What is Valari? She asked. Tai-ho swallowed hard. I think it is the name of your people. My people. The people your mother came from. The people in the sky. Biol considered this. She was smart, far smarter than any human child her apparent age. She understood more than Tai-ho sometimes realized. They want me? She asked. Yes. Will you give me to them? Tai-ho pulled her closer. No. Over the following days, Earth responded to the Valari. Communications were established. The aliens were patient and polite, but firm. They explained that a diplomatic scout had crashed on Earth 3 months ago. The pilot was lost, but her child might have survived. They requested permission to search. Governments debated. Some wanted to cooperate immediately. Others were suspicious. What did these aliens really want? Was the child story true, or was it an excuse for invasion? While the debates continued, the Valari began their search anyway. Small craft descended through the atmosphere, scanning the planet's surface with technology humans could not understand. They focused on remote areas, wilderness regions, places where a crash might go unnoticed. Tai-ho knew it was only a matter of time. He made preparations. He packed supplies into a large bag, food for himself, nutrient mixture for Biol, medical equipment, warm clothes, a knife, a small tent. He studied maps of the mountain regions to the north, looking for places to hide. Biol watched him pack with worried eyes. Her skin had turned gray and stayed gray. Appa, are we leaving? Yes, little star. We are going on a trip. Because of the people in the sky? Yes. Are they bad people? Tejo paused. He did not know the answer to that question. The Valari seemed peaceful. They had not hurt anyone. They only wanted their lost child. By any reasonable measure, Tejo was the one doing wrong. He was hiding their child, refusing to return her to her own people. But when he looked at Biol, he did not see a Valari child. He saw his daughter. He saw the little girl who called him Appa, who sang strange songs in her sleep, who laughed when he made funny faces. I do not know if they are bad, he admitted, but I am not ready to let them take you. Not until I understand what will happen to you. They left that night. The mountains were cold and dark. Tejo carried Biol on his back in a special harness he had made. She was quiet, sensing the seriousness of their situation. Only occasionally would she hum a soft, worried melody. They traveled for 3 days, moving only at night, hiding during the day. Tejo used his military training to avoid detection. He stayed off main paths, crossed streams to hide their trail, used natural caves for shelter. On the 4th day, he saw them. 3 Valari, moving through the forest a kilometer away. They wore silver suits that seemed to shimmer in the daylight. In their hands, they carried devices that hummed and glowed. Scanning equipment, Tejo guessed, looking for biological signatures. He pressed himself and Biol against a rock wall, barely breathing. Biol looked at the distant figures. Something strange crossed her face. Recognition, longing, fear. Tejo could not tell. They are like me, she whispered. Yes, but different. They feel cold. Tejo did not understand what she meant, but he noticed that her skin had turned a color he had never seen before. Not lavender, not gray, but something in between, shifting like water. The Valari moved away, continuing their search in a different direction. Tejo waited until they were completely gone before moving again. That night in a small cave high in the mountains, Biol could not sleep. She sat in Tejo's lap, holding his hand, her large eyes looking at nothing. Appa, she said quietly, why did my first mother die? Tejo felt his heart crack. He had been waiting for this question, dreading it. She was hurt when her ship crashed. I tried to help her, but her injuries were too bad. Was she sad? Yes, but also brave. Her last thought was of you. She wanted you to be safe. Biol was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I do not remember her. That is okay. You were very small. But I remember you. I remember you holding me. I remember your voice. She turned to look at him with those deep, dark eyes. You are my family now, she said. Whatever happens, you are my family. Tejo held her tight and did not trust himself to speak. Outside the cave, wind howled through the mountains. Somewhere in the night sky, alien ships searched for the child in his arms. He did not know how this would end. He did not know if he was doing the right thing. But he knew, with absolute certainty, that he would protect this little girl with everything he had. Some promises did not need words. Tejo and Biol moved constantly. They never stayed in one place for more than 2 days. They crossed rivers, climbed steep hills, pushed through thick forests that had not seen humans in decades. Tejo's body grew tired, but his mind stayed sharp. Every sound could be danger. Every shadow could be a Valari searcher. Biol grew during those weeks. She now appeared like a human child of 5 or 6 years, though she had been with Tejo for less than 5 months. Her mind grew even faster than her body. She could read simple books now. She could count to 1,000. She could name every tree and bird they encountered. She also learned to hide. Tejo taught her everything he knew about staying invisible, how to move without making sound, how to breathe slowly when afraid, how to press against rocks and trees until you became part of the landscape. She learned quickly, with the same intense focus she applied to everything. You are good at this, he told her one night, after she had hidden so well that even he could not find her for several minutes. She smiled, her skin glowing soft lavender with pride. I want to help, Appa. I want us to stay together. They developed routines. Tejo would scout ahead while Biol waited in hiding. He would signal her with bird calls he had taught her. 2 short whistles meant safe. 1 long whistle meant danger. 3 quick whistles meant run to the backup location. The Vilari search parties appeared regularly. They moved in groups of 3 or 4, scanning the wilderness with their glowing devices. Tai-Ho learned their patterns. They searched during daylight and returned to their ship at night. They avoided the highest peaks and the deepest caves. Their technology was advanced, but it had limits. Tai-Ho used those limits. He found a cave system deep in the northern mountains, where thick rock walls blocked most signals. He built a shelter inside, gathering soft moss for beds and storing food and water. During the day when the Valari searched, he and Biol stayed underground. At night, they came out to find more supplies. Life became simple but hard. Tai-Ho hunted small animals when he could, catching fish from mountain streams. He found plants that were safe to eat. For Biol, he carefully rationed the nutrient mixture, making each container last as long as possible. She never complained. Even when she was hungry or tired or scared, she stayed positive. She made up songs to pass the time. She told stories about imaginary adventures. She drew pictures in the dirt with sticks, showing the world she imagined beyond the mountains. One day she drew a picture of 3 figures, a tall one, a medium one, and a small one. "What is that?" Tai-Ho asked. "Our family," she said simply. "You, me, and maybe someday a brother or sister." Tai-Ho felt tears in his eyes. Even in hiding, even running for her life, she dreamed of a normal future, a family, a home. He swore to himself that he would give her that future, no matter what it cost. Meanwhile, Captain Yoon Jae-soo had problems of her own. She had been assigned to the Joint Human-Valari Task Force. Her job was to help coordinate human military resources with the alien search teams. It was an important position given to her because of her excellent record and calm leadership. But she knew something the others did not. She knew who had the child. Every day she watched the search reports. The Valari were thorough but frustrated. Their technology could detect biological signatures across vast distances, but the mountain terrain caused interference. They had found traces of the child several times, but always lost the signal before finding the actual location. Jae-soo knew why. Tai-Ho was using the caves. He was using every trick they had learned together in the military. He was staying one step ahead. Part of her was proud. Another part was terrified. The Valari were becoming impatient. They had come in peace, but their patience was not unlimited. Some in the human government worried that if the child was not found soon, the aliens might take more aggressive action. Others argued that maybe the child was dead, or the Valari were lying about her existence entirely. Jae-soo knew neither was true. The child was alive. Tai-Ho was keeping her alive. But for how long? She began her own investigation, quietly without telling anyone. She studied Tai-Ho's personnel file, looking for clues about where he might hide. She analyzed the terrain maps, marking the areas where signals had been detected and lost. She built a profile of his likely movements. One evening, she visited a small village at the base of the northern mountains. It was the last place supplies could be purchased before entering the wilderness. She showed Tai-Ho's picture to the local shop owner. "Have you seen this man?" The old woman squinted at the picture. "Maybe. A man like this came through about 6 weeks ago. Bought strange things. Baby food ingredients, special blankets, medical supplies." "Did he say where he was going?" "North, into the mountains. Crazy if you ask me. Nobody lives up there." Jae-soo had what she needed. She did not share this information with the task force. Instead, she requested a personal leave day and drove north alone. She parked her vehicle at the end of the last road and began walking. The hike was difficult. Jae-soo was in good shape, but the terrain was harsh. She climbed for 2 days, following the faint trail of someone who knew how to hide, but could not hide completely. On the 3rd day, she found the cave. She did not enter immediately. Instead, she sat outside and waited. Tai-Ho would have traps, warning systems, ways to know if someone approached. She wanted him to see her first. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, a voice came from the darkness of the cave entrance. "You should not be here, Captain." Jae-soo did not move. "I came alone." "Why?" "Because you need to hear what I have to say." Silence. Then Tai-Ho emerged from the shadows. He looked thinner than before, his face weathered by weeks in the wilderness. His eyes were tired but alert. Behind him, Jisoo could see the small form of Biol, watching from the darkness. They will find her eventually, Jisoo said. Their technology is improving. They are adapting to the terrain. In another month, maybe less, they will narrow the search to this region. Taiho's jaw tightened. Then I will move again. To where? You cannot run forever. She cannot live like this forever. Jisoo stepped closer, lowering her voice. She is growing, Taiho. She needs stability, education, a real life. She has a life with me. In caves? Eating whatever you can catch? That is not a life. That is survival. Jisoo looked past him toward Biol. She deserves better. Taiho was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. What do you suggest? Stop running. Let me help you negotiate. Negotiate what? A meeting with the Valari, not as a criminal hiding their child, but as her guardian, her protector. Jisoo met his eyes. You have raised her for 5 months. You have taught her language, culture, love. That matters. Make them see that it matters. Taiho looked back at Biol. She had come forward now, standing at the edge of the light. Her skin was gray with worry, but her eyes were steady. Appa, she said quietly, I am tired of hiding. Those words hit Taiho harder than anything Jisoo had said. He knelt down so he was at Biol's level. Are you sure? Meeting them might be scary. I know, but I want to stop running. I want to have a home. She touched his face with her small hand. And I want them to know you are my father. They should know that. Taiho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. Okay, he said. We stop running. He looked at Jisoo. Arrange the meeting. Jisoo worked through official channels, presenting Taiho's situation carefully. She described him not as a kidnapper, but as a rescuer. A military medic who had found a dying alien and honored her last wish. A man who had devoted months of his life to keeping an orphaned child alive. The human government was nervous. They did not want to anger the Valari, but they also did not want to simply hand over one of their citizens. Taiho had broken no human laws. He had cared for a child. That was not a crime. The Valari agreed to meet. The location was a military ship in the Pacific Ocean, chosen because it was far from population centers and easy to secure. Taiho, Biol, and Jisoo flew there by helicopter. Taiho had never liked flying, but Biol loved it. She pressed her face against the window, watching the clouds pass below them, her skin bright lavender with excitement. The sky is beautiful from up here, she said. Taiho smiled despite his fear. It is. Do you think the Valari have beautiful skies where they come from? I am sure they do. Biol was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I would like to see them someday. Both skies. The helicopter landed on the ship's deck. Military personnel guided them inside, through metal corridors to a large meeting room. There were guards at every door, but they did not point weapons. This was diplomacy, not war. The Valari delegation was already waiting. There were 5 of them, tall, elegant, with silver-gray skin that caught the light in the strange ways. They wore formal clothes that looked like flowing robes made of living material. Their faces were calm, unreadable. One of them stepped forward. She was female, Taiho could tell, with features that reminded him painfully of Biol's dying mother. She looked at Biol first, and something flickered in her large dark eyes. Recognition, longing, pain. Then she looked at Taiho and her expression became cold. I am Irai, she said. Her voice was musical but sharp. I am the sister of the one who died. I am the legal guardian of this child under Valari law. Taiho straightened. I am Park Taiho. I found your sister after the crash. I buried her with respect, and I have cared for her daughter ever since. Cared for her? Irai's voice carried disbelief. You hid her. You ran from us. You kept her from her own people. I kept her safe. I did not know your intentions. I only knew that she was alone, and I could help her. Irai's eyes narrowed. You are human, short-lived, primitive. What could you possibly offer a Valari child? Taiho felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. I offered her what any child needs. Food, shelter, love. Love, Ire almost laughed. You have known her for 5 months. Her people have known her for generations. Our blood flows in her veins. Our history is her history. You are nothing to her. Ask her then. The room went silent. Ire looked at Taiho with surprise. Behind him, Jasu held her breath. Ask the child, Taiho repeated. Ask her who I am to her. Ire hesitated. Then she looked down at Biol, who had been standing quietly at Taiho's side, holding his hand. The little girl's skin was shifting colors rapidly, showing the emotions she could not hide. Fear, hope, confusion, love. Child, Ire said, her voice softer now. Do you know who I am? Biol looked at her for a long moment. You look like my first mother, the one who died. Ire flinched. I am her sister, your aunt. Oh, Biol processed this. I do not remember her. I was very small when she died. But you know you are Velari. You know these people are your true people? Biol nodded slowly. I know I came from somewhere else. I know I'm different. She looked up at Taiho. But Appa taught me that different is okay. He taught me that family is not just about blood. It is about love. Irie's expression flickered. He taught you to call him father? No. I chose to call him that. He saved me. He fed me when I was hungry. He held me when I was scared. He sang to me when I could not sleep. Biol's voice grew stronger. He is my Appa. Nothing you say will change that. The room was completely silent. Irai stared at the child who shared her blood but spoke with human words and human emotions. She looked at Taiho, standing protectively at Biol's side, his hand still holding hers. She saw the bond between them, visible and undeniable. This is not acceptable, Irie finally said, but her voice had lost some of its sharpness. A Velari child cannot be raised by a human. Our ways are different. Our needs are different. She will never truly belong in your world. Then let me be part of both worlds, Biol said. Everyone turned to look at her. I do not want to lose Appa, she continued, but I do not want to forget where I came from either. Can I not have both? Can I not learn about the Velari from you and learn about humans from him? Irai looked troubled. That is not how things are done. Velari children are raised by Velari. That is our tradition. Traditions can change, Taiho said quietly. They must change when holding on to them causes more harm than good. You presume to lecture me about Velari traditions? No, I presume to speak as someone who has seen many traditions in many places. Human traditions, military traditions, medical traditions, they all change eventually, because the universe changes, because people change. He looked at Biol. Because children grow in ways we do not expect. Irai was silent for a long time. The other Velari in the room exchanged glances but did not speak. This was Irai's decision to make. Finally, she said, I must consult with my people. This situation is unprecedented. A human raising a Velari child, a child who speaks human language, follows human customs, loves a human father. She shook her head. I do not know what to do with you, Park Taiho. I am not asking for anything complicated, Taiho said. I am only asking that you not take her away from me. I am asking that I be allowed to remain in her life. And if we refuse, if we take her to our ship and bring her home, Taiho met her eyes. Then I will spend the rest of my life trying to find her. I will learn your language, study your culture, follow your ships across the galaxy if I must, because she is my daughter. Not by blood, but by choice. And I do not abandon my children. Ire studied him. Something in her expression shifted, not softening exactly, but changing, as if she was seeing him for the first time. You truly mean that, she said. It was not a question. I have never meant anything more. Ire turned to Biol. And you, child? If I took you away right now, what would you do? Biol's skin turned gray, but her voice was steady. I would be very sad. I would miss Appa every day, but I would not stop loving him, and I would wait for him to find me. She looked up at Taiho. Because he promised to protect me, and he always keeps his promises. Irai closed her eyes. When she opened them, she looked older somehow. Tired. 3 days, she said. Give me 3 days to consult with my council. We will meet again, and I will give you our answer. Tahoe nodded. Thank you. Irai looked at Biol one more time. You have your mother's eyes, she said softly, and apparently your human father's stubbornness. She turned and left, the other Vilari following behind her. When they were gone, Biol sagged against Tahoe's leg. Her skin slowly returned to lavender. Did I do okay, Appa? Tahoe knelt down and hugged her. You did amazing, little star. I am so proud of you. Jisoo let out a breath she had been holding. Well, that went better than expected. She did not say yes, Tahoe pointed out. She did not say no either, and she looked at you differently by the end, like she was starting to understand. Jisoo smiled slightly. You might just pull this off. Tahoe held Biol close and hoped she was right. 3 days. In 3 days, he would know if he could keep his family together. It was going to be the longest 3 days of his life. Ayeho and Biol stayed on the military ship, confined to guest quarters. The rooms were comfortable enough, but Tahoe could not relax. He paced constantly, checking the door every time he heard footsteps in the corridor. Biol watched him with worried eyes. Appa, you are making me dizzy. He stopped pacing and sat down beside her. Sorry, little star. I am just nervous. About what the Valerie will say? Yes. Biol climbed into his lap and put her arms around his neck. Her skin was calm lavender, as if she was trying to share her peace with him. Whatever happens, I will be brave, she said. You taught me to be brave. Tahoe held her tight and said nothing. During those 3 days, Jisoo brought them news when she could. The Vilari Council was debating intensely. Some wanted to simply take Biol and leave Earth behind. Others argued that the human had done nothing wrong, and punishing him would damage relations between the species. A few even suggested that what Tahoe had done was admirable. There is one voice speaking loudly for you, Jisoo told him on the second day. Who? Irai herself. She has been asking questions about you, your military record, your medical service, the lives you have saved. Jisoo paused. She seems genuinely curious about what kind of man you are. Tahoe did not know what to make of that. On the third day, the summons came. The meeting was held on the Vilari ship this time. A small craft transported Tahoe, Biol, and Jisoo from the military vessel up through the clouds, past the blue sky, into the darkness of space. Biol pressed against the window again, watching her home planet shrink below them. It is so beautiful, she whispered, all blue and white and green. That is Earth, Tahoe said. That is where I grew up, where my family lived, where I learned to be who I am. Tell me about your family? Tahoe smiled sadly. My mother was a teacher. She loved books and gardens. My father was a fisherman. He taught me to be patient, to wait for good things. He touched Biol's hair gently. They would have loved you. They are gone? Yes, many years ago. Biol took his hand. I am sorry, Appa. You have lost people too. Everyone loses people. But sometimes, if we are lucky, we find new people to love. The Vilari ship was enormous inside. The corridors were curved and organic, lit by soft, glowing panels that seemed almost alive. The air smelled clean but different, with hints of flowers that did not grow on Earth. Vilari watched them pass. Most looked at Tahoe with confusion or suspicion. A few looked at Biol with something like hope. She was young, innocent, a symbol of possibility. The council chamber was at the heart of the ship. It was a vast circular room with a high domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. 12 Vilari sat in a semicircle, each in a tall chair made of the same organic material as the ship. Irai sat in the center, her expression unreadable. Tahoe and Biol stood before them. Jisoo remained near the door, an observer but not a participant. Irai spoke first. We have deliberated for 3 days. We have studied your history, Park Tahoe, your species' history, your planet's history. Tahoe waited. Humanity is young, Irai continued. By our standards, you are children yourselves. Your recorded history spans barely 10,000 years. Ours spans millions. We have seen species rise and fall, civilizations bloom and fade. We have learned that survival requires caution, discipline, and adherence to proven traditions. She paused, looking at Biol. And yet, we have also learned that change is inevitable, that sometimes the unexpected shapes the future more than the expected. Irai stood and walked toward them. Her robes flowed behind her like water. Up close, Taiho could see the family resemblance to Buell's mother even more clearly. The same elegant features, the same deep dark eyes. "We studied your military record," she said to Taiho. "You have saved many lives. Humans, yes, but also others. You treated enemies who were wounded. You showed mercy when you could have shown cruelty. I am a medic. Saving lives is what I do. More than that, you buried my sister with respect, though she was a stranger to you. You took her child, though you had nothing to gain. You ran and hid for months, enduring hardship for a being not of your species." Iray's voice grew softer. "We searched our records for similar cases. Individuals who sacrificed greatly to protect children not their own. Do you know what we found?" Tejo shook his head. "Very few. Among our people, such selflessness is rare. We value family, but our definition of family is narrow. Blood relatives, clan members. We do not often extend that care to outsiders." She looked at Buell. "Perhaps that is something we should learn." She returned to her seat and addressed the full council. "Among our people, there is an old tradition. It comes from ancient times before we traveled between stars, when our world was dangerous and death was common. When a stranger protected a child who was not their own, showing exceptional devotion, the child's family could choose to honor that stranger." She looked at Taiho. "The tradition is called the claiming. The family formally adopts the protector into their bloodline, making them kin. It is a rare honor given only to those who have proven themselves worthy." Taiho's heart began to beat faster. This council has debated whether such an honor could apply to a non-Valari. Many argued it could not. Our traditions were made for our people, not for others. Uri paused. "But traditions must change when reality changes. And the reality is this. Biol loves you. You love her. That bond is real, regardless of species." She stood again and walked toward Taiho. This time she stopped directly in front of him. "Park Taiho, you protected the child of my sister when you had nothing to gain and everything to lose. You kept her alive when you did not know if you were doing it right. You taught her language, love, and courage. You ran from us not because you wanted to keep her from her people, but because you wanted to keep her safe." She extended her hand, palm up. It was a gesture Taiho recognized. He had seen humans do it when offering something precious. "I claim you," Ire said, her voice formal and resonant, "as kin to the house of my bloodline. By my authority as guardian of the lost child, I name you father to Biol in all ways that matter to the Valari people. You are no longer a stranger. You are family." The council chamber was completely silent. Taiho stared at Irai's extended hand. He understood what she was offering. Not just permission to stay in Biol's life, but full recognition, full belonging. He would be part of their family, their history, their future. Slowly he reached out and took her hand. "I accept," he said. Something passed between them, an understanding, a connection. Irai had lost her sister. Taiho had lost his parents. Both had found something new in Biol. Now they would share her, together. Biol let out a small, joyful sound. Her skin blazed bright lavender, brighter than Taiho had ever seen. She grabbed both their hands, creating a circle. "We are family now," she asked, her voice full of hope. Irai looked at her, and for the first time, something like a smile crossed her alien features. "Yes, little one, we are family now." Behind them, Jasoo wiped her eyes. She was not supposed to cry at diplomatic meetings. But this was not really a diplomatic meeting anymore. This was a family reunion. The council members stood one by one and bowed their heads in acknowledgement. The claiming was witnessed. It was official. Park Taiho, a human from a small planet called Earth, was now part of an ancient Valari bloodline. History had been made in this room, but all Taiho could think about was the small hand in his, and the little girl who would never have to hide again. "Let us go home, Appa," Biol said. Taiho looked at Irai. "Which home?" Irai considered this. "Both. She will have both, and so will you." For the first time in months, Taiho allowed himself to breathe freely. It was finally over, and something new was just beginning. The world had changed in ways no one had imagined. The Velari did not leave after finding Bjol. Instead, they stayed. Tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, they opened communications with humanity. Trade agreements were negotiated. Cultural exchanges were established. Scientists from both species began working together. The first interstellar treaty was signed on the same military ship where Teho had stood before Iri, defending his right to be Biel's father. And through it all, Park Teho became something he had never expected to be, a bridge between two worlds. He was appointed as humanity's first cultural ambassador to the Velari. It was a fancy title that meant, essentially, he spent his time explaining humans to aliens and aliens to humans. He traveled between Earth and Velari stations regularly, always accompanied by Biol, who was now an essential part of both societies. Biol had grown. She appeared roughly 12 years old by human standards, though her actual age was closer to 5.5. Her mind had matured even faster. She could speak 3 human languages fluently, plus 2 Velari dialects, and was learning more every day. She attended schools on both worlds, making friends among children of both species. Her skin still changed with her mood, but she had learned to control it better. She could keep it steady lavender when she wanted to hide her feelings, but around family she let it flow freely. It was a gift, Taiho had learned, to see her emotions so openly. Velari considered it a sign of trust. Irai had become a constant presence in their lives. At first, her relationship with Taiho had been awkward. She was still adjusting to the idea of sharing her niece with a human. He was still adjusting to the idea of having alien relatives. But over time, they found common ground. They both loved Biol. They both wanted the best for her. Everything else could be figured out. Now, on this particular morning, Taiho stood on a balcony overlooking the main assembly hall of the Velari space station. Below him, hundreds of beings, both human and Velari, gathered for the annual commemoration of Unity, a holiday that had been created to celebrate the alliance between their species. Biol stood beside him, tall and graceful, wearing a formal dress that blended human and Velari styles. Her dark eyes watched the crowd with interest. "Nervous?" Taiho asked. "A little. I have to give a speech." "You will do great. You always do." She smiled at him, her skin warming to a pleased lavender. "You always say that." "Because it is always true." Jasu joined them on the balcony. She was a general now, one of the highest-ranking human officers in the Joint Defense Program. Her hair was gray at the temples, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. "The hall is almost full," she reported. "Leaders from 17 human nations and 12 Velari houses. This is the biggest Unity Day yet." "It should be," Biol said. 5 years since the claiming. 5 years since everything changed." Taiho put his arm around her shoulders. It was hard to believe how much had happened since that night in the mountains, when they had hidden in caves and eaten whatever he could catch. Now they stood among the stars, honored guests of an interstellar gathering. A chime sounded. It was time. Biol walked to the podium at the center of the balcony. The crowd below fell silent. All eyes turned upward. She spoke in Velari first, then translated herself into Korean, then English. Her voice was clear and steady, carrying to every corner of the vast hall. 5 years ago, I was a child with no memories, no home, and no family. My mother had died bringing me to a world she had never seen. I was alone, the only Velari on an entire planet. She paused, looking down at the crowd. But I was not alone for long. A human found me. He did not know what I was. He did not know if I was dangerous or safe, valuable or worthless. He only knew that I was a child, and that I needed help. She looked at Taiho. He could have left me. He could have reported me to authorities who would have taken me for study. He could have protected himself and his career by following the rules. But he did not. Instead, he buried my mother with respect, took me to his home, and spent months learning how to keep me alive. Her voice grew stronger. That is what humans do. It is easy to miss if you only look at their history of wars and conflicts. But beneath all that, there is something else. Something powerful. Humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. They fight for strangers, adopt orphans, and sacrifice their comfort for people they have never met. She turned to address the Valari specifically. We pride ourselves on our advanced technology, our long history, our sophisticated culture. But when my mother's ship crashed, no Valari was there to help her child. A human was, a simple medic from a small planet, with no advanced technology, no long history, no sophisticated culture. Just a kind heart and a willingness to do what was right. Biol's skin shifted to a deep, warm lavender. That is why we are here today, not because of treaties or trade agreements or political calculations. We are here because one human showed us what his species is capable of. We are here because Park Tai-ho loved a child who was not his own, and in doing so, taught us something about ourselves. She stepped back and extended her hand toward Tai-ho. I would not be standing here without him. The alliance between our peoples would not exist without him. Everything we have built together started with a single act of kindness in a dark forest. The crowd began to applaud. First the humans, then the Valari, until the entire hall was filled with sound. Tai-ho walked to Biol's side. He was uncomfortable with attention and always had been. But when she took his hand and smiled at him, the discomfort faded. Was that too much? She whispered. It was perfect, he said. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Important people from both species wanted to meet Tai-ho, shake his hand, thank him for what he had done. He endured it with patience, saying the right things, accepting compliments he felt he did not deserve. Eventually, he escaped to a quiet observation deck overlooking the stars. Irai found him there, as she often did at these events. They had developed an understanding over the years. Neither of them loved crowds. She spoke well, Irai said, joining him at the window. She always does. She gets that from you, I think. The confidence, the way she connects with people. Tai-ho shook his head. That is all her. I never connected with anyone. You connected with her. That is what matters. They stood in comfortable silence, watching distant stars. I found something recently, Irai said, in our archives. A recording from my sister's ship. Tai-ho's heart skipped. A recording? The ship's emergency system preserved it. Her final moments. Irai's voice was careful. I did not share it before because I was not sure you would want to see it. But now, she handed him a small device. It glowed faintly in the darkness. It has been translated. Her last words. Tai-ho stared at the device. He remembered that night so clearly. The dying alien, the desperate eyes, the hand pushing toward the child. He had always wondered what she was trying to say. He activated the device. The recording was short, just a few seconds of audio. His translator implant converted the alien words instantly. A female voice, weak but clear, spoke. If anyone finds my child, please protect her. Please love her as I would have. I ask the universe to send her a guardian. Someone kind, someone brave, someone who will give her the life I cannot. The recording ended. Tai-ho stood very still. Tears ran down his face. All those years ago, a dying mother had made a prayer to the universe. And somehow, impossibly, the universe had answered. It had sent him. Irai put her hand on his shoulder. It was a human gesture she had learned, a way to offer comfort without words. She would be grateful, Irai said quietly. Wherever she is now, she would be grateful for what you have done. Tai-ho wiped his eyes. I did not do anything special. I just could not leave her alone. That is what makes it special. They stood together for a long time, two people from different worlds, united by the child they both loved. Eventually, Biol found them. She squeezed between them, taking a hand from each. What are you two doing out here? She asked. Just talking, Tai-ho said. About me? About everything. Biol leaned against him, looking out at the stars. Her skin was peaceful, content. Appa, she said, do you ever regret it? Taking me in? Everything that happened? Tai-ho looked down at her. This child who had fallen from the sky. This daughter he had never expected. This miracle that had changed everything. Never, he said, not for one moment. Biol smiled. Her eyes, dark and deep as a space itself, reflected the stars. Good, she said, because I would do it all again. Every scary night, every hard day, all of it. just to be your daughter. Taiho held her close. Outside the window, two worlds turned slowly in the endless dark. Earth and the Valerie homeworld, connected now by treaties and trade and technology, but more importantly, connected by a bond that had started with a promise made in a burning wreck. A mother's last wish, a stranger's choice, and a love that reached across the stars.